Our second part is to talk with you guys. Matima Studio.
Yeah, Matima Studio.
Please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so we're Matima Studio. We're basically a really young team that's in Klaipėda. So we basically formed to create a game. We didn't have funding, so we looked for solutions how to find funding for that game. The solution was to go freelance. So most of our time now is working on other projects. Most of the projects we work on are prototype games. So basically individuals or companies approach us and we make them prototypes of their game ideas and visions that they produce to investors or however they want to use it. So basically that's our business kind of model, and the money we save up from that we use on our own project.
And
Yeah, well, it's basically covered it
Oh,
all.
I didn't introduce myself. I'm Maris. I'm responsible for marketing and management of the company. That's Tom.
I found it.
Found it.
And how many? You're more people here. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's there's 7 of us in the office, but generally, like the projects we work on, people that we directly work on a daily basis, it's somewhere up to 20 from all around the world. So it's a very small team, very tight team actually. This is my classmate. So yeah, but yeah, we kind of also tend to take on the bigger projects. So.
And you were always here in Klaipėda, or moved from somewhere?
You were always here. We just not a very talkative people. We like to work more than talk. So
Usually how it goes.
Yeah, that's very difficult for.
Developers just hide under the rocks.
Yeah, it's not. It's focus on the work. So yeah, that's very cool when more marketing people or like business development, as now it's popular to say when they join the companies and kind of try to bridge this gap between public, let's say, and the developers inside, like working in their things. Well, when did you start? How many years already working?
So generally, we started, like, if we're talking about it as a hobby, it was back when we were at school. So working with UDK, we always were on Unreal Engine. So from way back, doing Unreal maps for the Unreal technology.
That's I can add that's very unusual for Lithuania, because Lithuania is I guess 90% Unity or something.
I've met a couple of people that work with Unreal, but they all didn't like work with us. So.
Well, actually, sorry, didn't say. Please at once ask questions if you have, because this is like Q&A session in the sense. So if you have anything, please just add to the questions. So yeah, why Unreal then?
It just panned out like that historically, because again, Unreal Maps, it was UDK. UDK was one of the better free engines at the time. I think Crytek was not even available, you couldn't even get it. Unity was not a thing at the time. It started being in its very early stages when we were already kind of familiar with Unreal in a very hobby sense, but this is how I remember picking up Unity when it was like very, very early on, looked at it and even then I said,
But wasn't Unreal limited in the sense of public? How can you use publicly without paying money?
Well, you couldn't get the source code at the time, but generally, even quite early on, actually it was relatively friendly. I remember you had to pay them, and I don't remember the percentage or whatever, but it was after the game was released. So you can use it really up until you want it to
Yeah.
And normally, if you sold some amount of copies.
So it was a threshold, yeah?
I think that was, I'm not sure if it was a threshold in the very, very early days. I think, yes,
Yeah,
it
the
is,
threshold came later.
and the threshold was like
Really large cap.
no, that's Unreal 4. UDK had like $40,000.
Mm.
So it was almost immediately really.
Okay.
So now it's like
Oh.
a really large cap.
Now it's I think they removed it. Like I
I think I was reading the
Or it's
documentation
2
and
million,
it's
so
like
it's
1 million, yeah.
Okay.
I also have one question about Unreal Engine. Because in the past, when I worked with Unreal Engine, I can encounter these problems which are quite familiar in the forums, which was crashing for the engine itself, quite long compiling times, and I'm wondering how are you basically working with it and how are you sidestepping these problems?
As far as the engine like structure, how it's made, how well it works, and how intuitive it is both for artists and programmers, it's a very, very well made piece of software. I worked with a couple of non-game frameworks, so I have experience with Qt, a bit older, similar to Visual Basic. It was like Fox Pro. I had to learn a little bit on that. And comparing to all those platforms, you have some sort of a task, right? That the template or whatever is made for to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Unreal is extremely fluid. So if you are going for a game that is a little bit more bigger in visuals, like that it's gonna look so-called AAA towards that direction. It's a very, very well-made piece of software for that. So yeah, that's and as far as crashes go and so on, like rarely do we run into problems where the engine is the fault. So it's usually if there's something wrong instantly, it's probably we did something wrong. So then it's like this was not always the case, but definitely. So it is these days.
And so, but you started, you at once started to do like how to say outsourcing projects for others, or you started with the game and then outsourced.
So I can tell you, yeah, it's we basically I told Arturas like let's go make a game. He said like unfortunately yes. So we went in and we started making it, and it's supposed to take like very short time. And of course it didn't run out like that, and we ran out of money and everything, and we basically then, but we worked really, really hard, I can tell you that, like comparing to things in life, like it was.
Yeah, that's typical, yeah.
So, but we ended up, well, we need to do something, and we started looking, what can we do? We have all this like knowledge and so on, is it applicable, so what can we use it? And we got a commission basically to make a small game prototype. I'm not sure if it's, I think it's in the slides. It's Alpha Squad, yeah, the first one. And we smashed it out in like less than a month. And it was a fully like operational game for mobile. And
sorry, I thought this game Squad Alpha. Yeah.
It's probably the first slide, I think.
Yeah, it's at the very start.
Yeah. So, it just so happens to be the guys that commissioned us were former developers from Rockstar NBA.
The one, the first.
And basically, after the job, they said that you guys are kind of amazing, work very fast, very good, and so on. And we kind of like, well, there's something to it maybe. And we started going like what's that how basically the project got just bigger and bigger. So new people started coming in, and well, that's the story basically. Yeah, it's for a mobile.
I think I saw it somewhere. What year was it?
So now it was like 3 years ago.
Okay. And then, but you also have your assets as like a separate asset bundles, as I understand correctly.
Yeah. We did try making just artistic asset packs for game development and selling them. That turned out to be like okay, but not worth doing.
It's a passive income idea, kind of. So it's
But there's also like this question of what do you want to work on, and like creating these asset packs to the end of is maybe not something we kind of wanted to do, and we just instead we want to work on our own game, and if not on other people's games, but have creative control, have creativity, and so on. That's pretty important to us.
when was the last asset pack made? By the way?
4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago, I remember a couple of weeks ago, we got an email of someone asking when are we optimizing the assets for Unreal Engine.
Somebody still using. I think that around 5 years ago that was quite a thing to do. It was possible to get income. We had a couple of sessions in Vilnius about that.
Well, first of all, we started when the marketplace was very young, so that gave us a big advantage. And even with like if you look at the assets, they're kind of good. I don't know, at least I think so. And so you have to have a certain amount of skill already.
Yeah.
Combining all of those and the returns you get, like if you're just a starting artist that has no skill in level design and asset making, I would discourage it as a ways of committing and like thinking, well, I'm gonna be able to live out. You really have to get to a certain point where it becomes profitable.
Because I remember some of them they were quite popular. They got this kind of traction in the community.
It's a little bit like I believe that there are marketplace sellers that did make like a lot, but it's something similar to a viral like selling a game. So you cannot bank on that. You cannot. This is not a valid business model.
Can you tell a bit what project are you working right now? Is it like one project or it's multiple projects? How do you?
Currently, we have one main project that we're working on. It's both web, back to our own game. Unfortunately, it has NFTs in it.
We can leave this discussion for after because it can take 7 hours.
A debate.
So it's one of the bigger projects we have overtaken, and it's not really a prototype in our case. It's like we are fully developing the game, and currently we're working with other studios, actually quite big ones, trying to get them into our pipeline to work. We also have like a very specific way of working, a custom way, and running the business and view just the general view as a studio or ourselves. I noticed that working with other studios, they have a very I'm not sure if there's a template of how to make a game development studio, but they all seem to be in or maybe I should not say game development, I should say asset creation studios that work with game developers. So they all have like very, very similar structure to them, and the way they do business, talk with you, and what do they offer. Not to go into details, but like really.
Yeah, but that's an interesting topic by itself. But you mean studios from other countries, or?
Yeah, it's from all over the world.
Yeah, I think in Lithuania we still are too young to kind of have this like different and established structures of studios. Let's say.
Working with a couple of also too is trying to get a pipeline. You guys from Serbia, Turkey. We have a couple of guys from Vietnam that actually are pretty good.
Yes, Serbia. I talked to them recently. They are very like Unreal friendly. How to say? It seems like it's a bit opposite than here. Majority is working with Unreal. At least that was my impression.
But generally speaking, like if you look at the overall view, when it comes to these kind of inside studios and so on, I have a feel, again, not like engineering, no, but I do have a feel that Unreal is way harder to find than Unity.
Unity,
Especially the standards.
In Lithuania for sure.
And as a developer that specifically work with Unity optimization, because well, one thing is to create an asset in Maya, another one is to apply it into the engine and specifically optimize it for.
It's interesting you mentioned Maya at once. Do you have more people from the maybe like film industry, animation industry also coming to you and working together?
No.
No, it's mostly from game dev, yeah.
Yeah, it's and we do like a lot of people that work with us are grown from the ground up, so they went and having some basic knowledge, but basically we just learn as we go. Yeah, so and as far as working with people with from 3D industries, we are actually having hard time because the studio is all of our artists know how to program and they know how to optimize. It's actually a kind of a requirement for the studio. If you are, it doesn't matter. If you're an artist, you have to have like basic knowledge of programming, being able to well.
That's another pressure to find people because that's quite difficult.
It is. But by the end of the day, a very small amount of people can achieve really good results if everyone is on the same page and everyone can literally like go at each other's work and adjust it.
Yeah, because I'm only recently started to hear that in Lithuania people started to look for like technical artists. If I understand correctly, that's more or less everyone in your case.
Well, it's not at the start usually, but we like instead of segmenting and making these are the artists, these are the programmers, we go on the opposite direction very heavily as if like so here's a game feature. You are making this game feature. We try to, of course there are limitations like physical limitations that one person cannot do everything, but as much as possible. So, yeah.
Oh, sounds very serious. Any questions in here?
Does your team have game nights or like I don't know, like meetups, bars, cycling?
We usually work.
We don't have
What's your team culture like?
You have a once a year event basically at summer. We go to the cabins and that's it. And scratch that, probably this summer we're not gonna go because there's a deadline in September, so this summer we're probably going to work. So maybe next year.
So maybe you can try to combine, go to cabins and work. People do that. I don't know, at least. Well, in Sweden, I know it's very popular to go to work to cabins.
That's probably all they think about, just work. Yeah. I mean, yeah, probably as a runaway to cabins, not to actually.
Yeah, and if you would like to do some programming on a laptop and compare it to what we do with Unreal,
Yeah.
I would have to bring my PC. Tom would have to bring his 355-inch monitors to the cabins.
Yeah.
The internet.
Yeah. Okay, that might not work so well.
It's a perfect setup at the beach, right? Where the sun shining, it's hot.
Oh yeah.
You can use as a shade. You can use this screen as a shade.
So
Something I wanted to add actually about the requirement of knowing some basic knowledge of blueprints and coding for artists is it also heavily informs how you create assets for the game, because if you don't have any knowledge of how blueprints are constructed and things like that, you may not create the assets in an efficient way for the game. So if you have basic understanding of how it's going to be used, then that will inform your creation of the assets themselves. So it's just one of the reasons why there's that requirement in place.
And if you have again that segmentation, heavy segmentation, where some people do exactly that thing and nothing else, even though they are good, you are very restricted in your pipeline creation for the game. You end up, because you know that the people are not going to be able to do anything that they are already doing. This also impacts. I think this is why some of the parts of the industry is a little bit stale. It's because of the work culture has set in such a way that people do exact things. And I'm not sure, maybe it's just kind of I'm just getting old and the games seem sometimes a little bit same. But yes, not on the indie side, but on the AAA side. And this is, I think, the reason basically.
How do you market yourselves as a studio? I guess internationally, you go to events, like participate in online events, or what's the best for you?
To be honest, we don't. Yeah.
So they find you.
People find us.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at first, right? You have to like dig and send out proposals and set a low hourly rate. But now, basically, how it is, you decline offers because you're too busy with other projects. Also, that crypto boom had an influence, because I think every other project we get proposed, or even every like fifth project, you could say, is not a crypto game. Yeah, so that's basically the market right now. Everyone wants to make a crypto game.
Wants to try. Yeah.
Wants to make some money with crypto games.
Yeah, I could talk like it. I read in my part one or two sentences.
Yeah, we kind of know the sentiment of the core gaming community. That's not really into crypto.
But it's okay. We have various opinions about it.
Yeah. It's a topic that's probably going to be discussed for a long time.
And yeah, anything else from the work part?
What's the most satisfying in your job?
Satisfying in general. Well, the work part.
Yeah, just on the work.
We literally get to, at least in some capacity, choose the projects we want to work on, and we usually do want work. It's again a kind of thing that we don't have in. Oh, there's a restriction that we kind of made that we have to do 8 hours in the office. And also there are 2 hours that in the day, which is I think
Between 2 and 4.
2 and 4, where like everyone has to be present. And we just do.
No,
each
because
other,
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of like restrictions on management, but people who work there just work because they kind of want to do it.
I'll then paraphrase from your session about the milestones. I mean, how often do you get results in your process?
Depending on this heavily like a project. So as the project requires. Basically, some projects have very, very clear set milestones that we have to rush to. Some other ones can be in experimental in their nature, and they don't require you to have like an exact result at a given time. Just give the best possible kind of outcome. So both ends we have work on.
What is your vision for the future?
Well, we're kind of at the crossroads. So it's whether we grow bigger or we stay small is one of the bigger questions. Because if you grow above, well, again, it's now a team. Everyone knows what everyone else is doing, right? As far as the core goes, there are a couple other people, but the core team manages all of those other people. If you go into a bigger teams, then it kind of gets a little bit different. So you have the option to do that, and it's a question, and it's going to be, we do take a lot of the decision making as a group. How it goes with the team, what everyone is feeling, so we'll see. And as far as the projects go, we want to get back to our own game and make it good. So.
How much usually do you have less creativity in your projects? Are they very defined or mostly up to you?
We are very, at least I think so, because it's hard to compare, but we are very actually forthcoming and actually forceful with our clients. So we go in and let's say our company wants to have some sort of a game. And instead of us just taking okay, so what we want, we will kind of deflect back and say, no, this is how we want to make it, this is how we want to make it. And usually, a lot of times, they say, that sounds good, then let's go for it. So even if we don't get the creativity, we usually dig it out. So, yeah.
Yeah, because the clients do not usually have a game development background, and they're kind of open to suggestions.
It's depends on the client. For example, in our anglų project, so we have full carte blanche actually for creating game itself, game design, but we have some restrictions for visual stuff. So the client has his own vision of how visually the game should look. So we are communicating with the client actually 24/7 and managing all stuff, all artistic stuff in the game. Actually, said more about that. Art director.
It all depends on the client with the visual restrictions, and some things you can suggest and improve, and they take that on board, but other stuff may not be received very well, and it's absolutely essential that something is exactly how they want it to be, and it's just balancing that idea of suggestion and making their vision. So it's more of a balance than, and obviously depending on the client as well. We've had various different clients from not having a clue what they want visually to having a clear vision of what they want, and we just have to balance that and suggest where we can suggest things.
Can you disclose anyone from the clients publicly or not? Everything is.
I guess we can,
We
but
can talk about banana even actually, because it's a lot of marketing materials already.
it's a lot of projects are actually, we actually don't have it signed NDAs.
Okay, so they trust you.
But we respect the people we work with, so it's up to them to make the decision to go publicly or not with their project. So it's better if we let them make the decisions.
Okay. Cool, because I've been working for many years from various sides in this industry. So it's I like that more and more people become open about the co-production, about outsourcing. Not everything is secret anymore. So that's nice. It's good to know that, especially if there is some kind of bigger company working together with someone in Lithuania. So that's starts to remind the movie industry a bit, and then it helps how to say, publicly to have more famous names in that sense. So,
Yeah, we try to be. Although I suppose we didn't get like a lot of opportunity because usually no one asks. But yeah, we're trying to keep things open, especially when we get into the short development, especially working with people, with other studios. We share all of our knowledge, all of the help that we can provide them for, the resources we use, or clients as well. We have no problems of like getting our client to some other studio that we work on. It's just better to kind of create an environment that is nice to work on instead of working one that is, again, the secretive stuff you kind of mentioned on that people think that it's some sort of a trade secret, especially in NDAs. I do not, like, we're not gonna steal your game. We really don't. It's, yeah, so.
Earlier, like, the main obstacle, like, that's, I have to say many years ago already, the main obstacle we couldn't do the meetups or anything, because nobody wanted to share their ideas, because everybody was afraid that as soon as I speak up about something, it will be, stolen. But yeah, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, the biggest conundrum is whether the idea or the person who can make it is more expensive.
What about the name? How did you come up with the name? What does it mean? If it means something.
What does it mean?
I can give you the real story. So in Lithuania we cannot make a company name, or at least we couldn't at the time that was in English.
Yeah, there was a point where you couldn't do that.
So we actually didn't end up using our brand name as our company name.
It's typical.
But at the time when we were creating it, we wanted something that had a domain, like, was easy to say in all languages, and like so, and easy to pronounce, that kind of thing. And we had a bunch of various, some words, some not words, nothing very fancy on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's complicated process.
O įdomesnė istorija tai yra, kad turim platų matymą.
Any more professional questions? I'll end up with like
Can be non-professional.
Yeah, any random questions.
do you play anything yourselves? What do you like? What inspires you to create?
Last game we played, at least some of us in the studio, solo, was New World.
Which one?
New World.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
So we hate it.
So you jumped into the very beginning when it opened?
I actually never got into an MMO release. A big MMO, so of course, not the best experience. but the game was great. It had a lot of good things going. And I guess one of the latest kind of thing in the office was a refining of the Stanley's Parable, the deluxe edition.
Oh yeah.
So some of the people didn't ever play it.
Yeah.
So did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's amazing. If no one tried it.
Yeah, it's very cool. Because
Yeah,
you get some earlier games working.
It's not for a lot of hours to play, and the main thing is that you can play it for 2 hours and you think that you finish the game, but you are not, man. You can play like 15 hours, even more.
Are any of you into Oaths or Beat Saber?
I tried it, but I'm not a fan of VR games.
I'm a big fan of VR, but not pizza.
Do you get any orders for VR or not?
We got some, but and we thought that it's gonna be like a big thing, so we actually made a couple of prototypes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did delve into it from the development side of things, and well, it never ended up being a thing. So,
Yeah, it's still nobody knows when like the real wave will come.
Yeah, the market for VR right now.
It's just music. That's all VR is.
well, it's gonna be when you can use VR instead of a monitor more efficiently. So when it's gonna be better to use a VR device than a monitor in front of you, you'll use it for your job. Well, yeah, then it's gonna take off like a lot. It's not there. It's not
It's still
comfortable.
still too complicated. Okay, I can let you go.
Okay, so final thought is if you're interested in games, game development, live nearby, you can always just visit us or just
What
come
is
to
your
us
office?
like right now, and we can exchange emails or Facebook.
Ufa? Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're in Kultūros Fabrikas. So thank you.
Incredible place.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.